Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Richard, this is my channel, and someone on one of my videos, I don't know if he's subscribed or not, his name's Boy, and his symbol is two red cap mushrooms. I do not believe it's these two red cap mushrooms, but two red cap mushrooms. He said he'd like me, well, here's his exact comment on my video, Should Education Be Free? Could you talk about trade policy next? Seems to be a hot potato these days. Alright, so, in order to get this video out as fast as possible for Boy's benefit, I'm filming it on my phone. And what's happening now is we are engaging in a trade war. We, as in America, are engaging in a trade war with our two closest trading partners, Mexico and Canada, for no good dang reasons, so far as I can tell. Trump is saying he wants to annex Canada, which is ridiculous. Canadians are happy being Canadians. They have no desire to join the United States. We've learned that several times violently. If you follow history, there is a desire to quell fentanyl crossing our border or other drugs. This is, again, drugs are not really coming down from Canada so much as they are coming up from Mexico, but why these sanctions are doing anything, we don't know. It's But the bottom line being is that, look, credit where credit is due. The government does have to protect the American farmer. I mean, for example, I believe we have a 200% tax on, a 200% tariff on garlic from China. The reason being is that Chinese garlic is so cheap that American garlic can't compete. So, if we did not have this tax, it would be impossible to grow garlic in the United States because there'd be no one to buy it. It would be very expensive garlic. Now, you might say, well, what's the big deal? Well, I mean, what if, for example, we go to war with China and then there are no more garlic farmers? We want to produce some of everything in the United States if possible, anything that's a staple. So, garlic, because a lot of restaurants use it, a lot of people cook with it. We've made it reasonably more expensive in order to protect the farmer and preserve the infrastructure, that which produces garlic, so that no one can put the finger on garlic and say, hey, we're not going to have any more garlic. We do this with a lot of things. The government constantly protects the farmer. That's what the government does. They often buy up excess crop in order to preserve the value of that crop so that the farmer can continue to function in America, right? And, during the Great Depression, I read a story about the Great Depression where there was a man who, he was a farmer. His thing was sheep, he was a sheep herder. And he sold the sheep for meat. It's what he did. And the Great Depression hit, and it turned out that the feed to bring the sheep to market would cost more than he could sell the meat for. So what he wound up doing was killing all of his sheep and throwing them into a ditch, and now he was homeless. So this government regulation, we cannot live with whatever the market will bear, right? But the problem there being is, at a certain point, commodities become unobtainable. And it's like, yes, the American government buys huge amounts of food. Much of it winds up being stored in weird places rather than just being sold. So, like, one thing we could do with all this food the government buys is say, okay, we will feed all the homeless people. We could have places where it's like, all right, it's not like retail level food, but like I've actually seen at the market I shop at, there has been, government issue food. It's been a thing. So we could have dispensaries in, for say, Los Angeles that dispenses this free food so that nobody is food unstable in the United States. This might cause a problem because if nobody has to buy food, the cost of food would go down. This is a possible, but this is irrelevant to the issue at hand, which is that the trade war is causing commodities to rise. Fresh fruits, like they talked about, limes are more expensive and avocados are more expensive. And this is an issue because food in general is more expensive. I mean, I take my donations to a nun, and she trades in my aluminum cans for money, which she then uses to feed orphans. And she actually said it's cheaper to buy food in America and take it to Mexico where the orphans live than it is to take money to Mexico and buy food there. So food is actually cheaper here, which really disturbed me. But it's truth. And this was before the pandemic. After the pandemic, in the current market, this nun, now I'm not a Catholic, mind you, so I merely respect the fact that she tries to help people. This nun is having trouble feeding her sisters, her fellow nuns. And why is food so expensive in America? Corporate greed. There is no other reason. Profits are way, way up. The rich are getting way, way richer because they are able to charge us more because they're all doing it. So, there's so few marketers that no one is getting the idea of, hey, let's just decrease the cost and sell more product. Everybody's saying, let's just keep jacking up the price and screwing over the consumer. And, this is one of the reasons why we need antitrust laws. Okay, so things are already expensive, and now the price is going up because we're having this trade war with Mexico, which is a major agricultural producer. And I think Canada is not so much an agricultural producer as they are a raw materials producer. So commodities like, why is my cat food more expensive? The meat, I believe, is produced in America, but the can, okay, the materials to make the can is more expensive now. And the materials to make the box the can comes in may be more expensive because Canada produces a lot of lumber. They're a major lumber producer. So we have this trade war that is driving up prices. That's what's happening. Prices are already high. And I mean, it's like, yes, Donald Trump came out there and he ran on a policy of, I'm going to get grocery prices down. All right. Why this has anything to do with what he's doing, I couldn't tell you. All right. I don't see the relationship between making the government more efficient and bringing prices down. I will have to point out, I live in California, And California pays more taxes to the federal government than any other state. The most people live here. We are the cash cow of this nation. So when you talk about government efficiency, you're saving my money, not your money. All these government programs are supporting the other 49 states, and it's California's money that they're conserving so they can cut taxes to give to rich people who don't need it. And in the midst of this boiler room, we're talking about getting money from Americans in a new way, which is by charging for things like limes. And the system is now chaotic, so tariffs are going into effect, then they're not going into effect. It's impossible for us to predict what's going to happen tomorrow. It's impossible. There's no way we can say definitively this will be the tariffs tomorrow. In addition, Canada, for example, is playing the trump card. They're just saying, all right, pull American products, put them into storage so that, if they were pouring them out, I wouldn't be worried, because it's like, pour them out, dingus. That just means you're going to have to buy more of them when this is all over. So wonderful. But pulling them from sale so that they cannot be sold in Canada is definitely going to harm American producers. And look, they say you don't make champagne anywhere but France. Technically, champagne is sparkling wine that comes from the French Champagne region. And I would have to counter with, okay, yes, technically we don't make champagne in California, but I would say that our sparkling wine kicks the crap out of France any day of the week, any month of the year, any year of the century. America makes some of the finest whiskey in the world, some of the finest vodka in the world. We are a producer of so many premium spirits that the world envies our production. That's one of the great things about being an American is that we make so many wonderful things here that are things of joy, like alcohol. And we are a nation that is truly proud of our harder alcohols. Our beers, not so much. But, so that's the thing, is that when you start a war, somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. And one of the things that we Americans just don't understand about wars is that there's one group of people that always loses a war. Those people are called civilians. You know, just to give you a total, most conservative total of civilians killed in the Hiroshima bombing is 90,000. Some people estimate that number to be far higher because of the lasting fallout. So around 300,000 is the upper end estimate of that. Not 300,000, but around 3. So civilians tend to be the losers in war. And, it's in true war, you could say it's the civilians. The mother that loses her son is still the loser, even though the son that died is the loser. But, I think it was World War I or World War II that less civilians died in the war than soldiers. Okay, normally more civilians die in war. So the concept of a war is that it's the civilians that get hurt. In a trade war, the civilians are the people, obviously, and the combatants are the governments. So this trade policy of having a trade war, Trump can say, well, trade wars are easy to win. Yes, but he is so rich that it doesn't matter to him or any of his friends if we have a trade war. It doesn't matter to him if cat food is $30 for 40 cans or $100 for 40 cans, because these people are so wealthy that the concept of the commodity no longer exists for them. If, for example, Elon Musk were a fan of French champagne, and the French turned around and said, we will no longer import champagne to the United States because of your war, he could literally charter a plane to go to France, pick up bottles of champagne, put them in the storage hold, and fly them back. So if he says, oh, I'm out of champagne, I do believe he could get champagne from anywhere in the world within 24 hours. So the idea of a commodity doesn't exist to him. If he were out of limes, he could pay someone to charter a plane to fly to Mexico to pick up limes. Understand that the people fighting this war, this trade war, having this toxic foreign policy, are so wealthy that it doesn't matter how expensive things get, they can always afford more. I mean, you're talking about people who could afford to not only throw out food they don't eat, but they could literally decide that dinner tables get dirty, have dinner on a dinner table, throw out the dinner table and everything on it, and not even notice because they're so wealthy. The level of wealth that exists with these people is so insane that, I mean, it doesn't matter what the economy's like. They have so much money that they do not fathom us. It doesn't exist to them that it's like, oh, I might not be able to get a McDonald's hamburger, or something like that. These are people who literally, I mean, Elon Musk, if he'd say, you know what, I'm a fan of the McRib, he could literally franchise a McDonald's every year, purchase, say 20,000 McRibs, and just keep them in his freezer. And just, when I want a McRib, I have McDonald's. I have a McDonald's that makes me a McRib, right? And I mean, he's got so much money that if he said, I go anywhere in the country, I'm going to have a McRib, he could keep the materials on ice, fly them anywhere he wants to in the country, go to any McDonald's and say, you're going to make me a McRib, I've got the things right here. That's who this man is. Okay? Why he would do that, I would assume he wouldn't. I would assume he wouldn't eat something that cheap. But this is a man who could have a fully staffed restaurant that caters to no one but him. He could literally go out there and have a tractor semi-trailer made that does nothing but cook for him. He could have his own kitchen staff put on a trailer and go wherever he goes, and he could then buy a plane to fly it anywhere in the world that he wants, and he could just be that person. So we are the victims of a trade war being fought by people who are so wealthy, there's no possibility that they could ever feel the pain of this war. And, you know, that's the world we live in. I mean, understand, Elon Musk, richest man in the world, tomorrow he could just say, you know what, I'm going to sell every company I own at half price and just have liquid funds. And then put all those liquid funds into a bank and live off the interest. Right? So yeah, foreign trade policy in America is pretty dumb right now. Maybe you disagree with me, and that's fine. You know, maybe you know more than I do about it. But I personally see a trade policy hurting the American people and doing the opposite of what Trump promised us. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Comments.
Danger Ducky says it would be sweet as a cupcake if you would comment, like, and subscribe.